And my feelings are my feelings, and they exist, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm unbelievably happy and that I love you very much.
Me too.
And then the work that you're doing is important to me, and it's important to us and our family. And I can't wait to watch you and do more of that and to be there and support you in all of those moments. Really.
I'm not gonna cry. I love you. I guess if I was to sum up why we're here, we just recently had a little baby boy. Mm-hmm. And our emotional and physical intimacy for a while has taken a tank. And I think that pretty much sums it up on my part.
So what happened with your intimacy? Sexually? Like
Doesn't
what?
exist.
And have the two of you talked about it and tried to problem solve around it, or?
Not until very recently, where we've literally, through the recommendation of both of our individual therapists, scheduled sex.
Right.
We did it, right? We tried. We went on a date. We didn't do it on the date time.
Just why not on the day of the date?
We were like...
Not we.
Okay,
Don't include me in that, yeah.
We had a babysitter, and then we got home, and then we were tired. Like, it was our first time.
I wasn't tired.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was.
Okay.
Sorry. So.
But you're saying soon after?
And then we did do it, like, a few days later. It was awkward, like you said. That was the exact word you used.
I don't remember calling the sex awkward. I don't remember saying that.
Maybe that wasn't the adjective
But
you used.
what's your understanding of what's going on there?
So I went through this period where I refused to even try anymore. I was so resigned, like she didn't get any of that energy from me anymore. And
Because
I was like,
rejected?
it's making me feel bad. Yeah. I started to blame myself for I was like, is it my performance? Is it how I look? Is it, all these narratives I was playing in my head was so unhealthy. And I was very honest with her, and I was like, this is taking a huge toll on me. And I just got back, I'm sorry. That's all I got back. You know what I mean?
Hold on. So what would you add to that?
I know if I say, well, hey, I'm not feeling great about myself. That's not a one-time, like, this week sort of thing. So it feels shitty to talk about all the time. Like, hey, I'm not really feeling it because I don't like me. Like, I feel like that's...
You feel like
That's a really tough place to go.
In yourself?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
What's the oh, my God?
Just, like, getting emotional about it. It sucks. Fucking sucks. But I also suppress those feelings because I'm like, I know you feel shitty too. But sharing that is like, it's difficult.
What's bothering you?
When I met him, I was like in this like most confident time in my life. I was a really young mom. So I had my daughter when I was like 18. So I was a mom for like all of those years when you're like, in college and partying and doing all those fun things. And so it wasn't until I was much later in my 20s that I was like, able to just explore who I was. And then I met him, and he's super confident, super intelligent man, and that rubbed off on me, and it felt good. It felt really good, and it sort of reassured how I felt about myself. And then, like, the closer we get, I'm like, maybe I'm not the, like, super confident, interesting person that I thought I was, because that was something I was trying on. And, like, when I see us as a couple, I'm like, wow, you bring, like, all the good shit. And I'm just, like, I feel like a sidekick, just, like, here for the ride.
How is it for you? Do you hear Natasha say what she's saying?
It doesn't make sense to me because I see so many amazing things about her. My life has gotten exponentially better since I've been with you. So for me, I don't understand why she feels that way, but I understand that she does, and I wish I could help. This week has been really heavy with rejection for me because I've been making a lot of efforts to try to initiate both like sexual situations and just intimate situations with Natasha, and she's rejected me every single time. This is taking a lot out of me to just keep trying and just feeling so undesired. I'm just trying to figure out what'll work, you know? Like, I don't know, because my partner doesn't talk to me about her preferences. And I've asked.
But right now, ask.
What is your preference? How would you like me to initiate sex?
Josh has these moments where his desire is driving the interaction. And when he comes on to me, I'm like, yes, but I'm just not feeling aroused.
I don't want her to jump on my bones. I'm just talking about just enjoying something, right? I don't even feel liked. I feel tolerated. I feel like a pervert. That's the energy that I'm getting. It makes me feel sometimes like, is this intentional? Are you trying to minimize me? Because I'm starting to feel that way. Like my emotional self is hunching. And it's like, it's not me. My natural self is confident, boisterous, and it just feels like I'm being fucking suppressed. Let's be real. As much as I deal with rejection, I'm handling it pretty fucking well. I'm frustrated, and then I'm dealing with a partner who's making me feel like my frustration is oppressing them or making them feel bad themselves. So now I have to uproot my feelings, forget about them, and then worry about her. And that happens even in conversation. So I just asked her, how do I initiate? She didn't say anything. She didn't answer that question.
But let's go back to the original question. First of all, you said that the problem for you is that it's on Josh's, I don't know what to call it, clock or...
Yeah. I mean, it feels like I don't, whether it be, you know, my body, my hormones or whatever, that feeling for me is very few and far between. So I don't get to experience or reciprocate that.
You don't get to experience your own desire.
Yeah, just spontaneous, like,
Right.
I would like to have sex right now.
Right.
And then being able to direct that at my partner.
Right.
Even on our lonesome time where it's like, do you pleasure yourself?
Right.
We'll have that sort of thing. And it's like, no,
No. Never.
not never. Extremely rarely. I'm talking about, like, I just physically don't have the desire. With him, without him, like, it's not him.
Either your libido is low or you're disconnected from it.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I'm not rejecting him. It's just that I feel like I'm, the word betraying, it feels bad, but like I'm betraying myself.
What would be okay for you to do together as far as any kind of intimacy that wouldn't feel like it's an act of betrayal?
Touching, making out, that sort of thing. I don't.
Do you have any suggestions?
No.
Try.
I'm trying not to be frustrated right now. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I think part of what's going on is you're so overwhelmed by the feelings that this is bringing up in you, which I understand, rejection, frustration, and I guess some form of humiliation or feeling bad about yourself, that those feelings get so overwhelming for you that you're not actually grasping what Natasha is saying about her experience.
At this moment, no, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not.
Okay. Well, I heard Natasha say that her own libido feels very elusive to her.
Yeah, okay.
So that's part of what you're meeting when you're trying to engage her sexually.
Yeah.
What I'm asking the two of you to think about is what area can you meet at somewhat in the middle between the two of you? Can we take sex off the table?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
You know,
So
it's not been an issue.
let's agree to that. And Natasha, your job is to try to find some place within yourself to initiate from, initiate contact, initiate conversation. Okay?
Okay.
And let's see what happens. Can I ask you, Josh, to tell me something about your, early background?
I have a very chaotic upbringing. grew up rough, you know, like my mom and my dad, very, very, very unhealthy relationship. My mom is a maniac.
How so?
I mean, you name it. My mom poured sugar in my dad's tank, sold his BMW, sold all his equipment. My mom cheated on my father in front of me when I was like, I think 10. And when I mean cheated, like she had sex with another man while I was in the same room. And that same man put a gun in my hand and told me to kill him at one point. So like a lot of crazy shit that I went through as a kid. And my dad protected me from a lot of the things like that. And he tried to protect me from my mom, but when there was a custody battle, they separated. I was under the custody of my mother. So he couldn't protect me in those moments. He couldn't keep me away from a lot of that mess.
How old were you when they separated?
I was in first grade when they began separating. And there's a lot of moments in my life where like my mom would get an apartment and I would just live there. And my mom would like get a boyfriend and live with a boyfriend or...
So you would
Yeah.
not have an adult around?
Yeah, often. I had a lot of freedom as a kid because of that. A lot of freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on perspective. As a kid, it was freedom. As an adult, it was negligence. And then I joined a gang at 14. I've been through a lot.
Yeah. It's very tough.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've done incredible work of indeed transforming difficult feelings into reparative, compassionate feelings.
Yeah.
How are you doing listening?
I think I see so much of his experience in him, and I'm like, wow, you're magic, right? Because these things would have really, you know,
They
would have messed up
created-
anybody.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of like does his own little internal alchemy and like makes, you know, the best parts of him.
I processed so much in therapy, and I work really hard to work on myself. And I want to share what I feel through these sessions with her in the intimacy of just me and her. And Natasha doesn't tend to be too open to that kind of conversation.
What can you add?
I think that coming here, it allows me to open up, right? And
Because of some sense of safety.
correct. And at home, I get really stuck back into that routine where I'm just sort of like avoiding the conversations or
But what are you avoiding?
just tension, arguing, like
Arguing,
yeah.
conflict.
Yes. Conflict is like somewhere where I just have like a very like it's not flight or fright or what is it called?
Fight or fight.
or
Fight or
fright.
flight.
There we go. I am a freeze.
So where is this from? This fear of things becoming scary and
Life, my very
Which-
tumultuous past.
tell me.
At a very young age, I got in a relationship with my daughter's father, and that was toxic as fuck. There was a lot of what
Was
I
it
would know
violent?
A little bit, yes. Then after that relationship dissolved, I was sort of in like survival mode, without a college education, just trying to make money, trying to forge a future for myself and like keep everybody alive and safe. And like I've had so much conflict in those years that now that I'm in sort of like a good space, any conflict I treat like catastrophic
yeah.
conflict.
But it sounds like actually you're scared a lot of the time.
I'm totally scared.
But what are you scared of in a conversation?
Well, I
Every
think,
conversation maybe carries the threat of a breakup.
yes, in my mind, yes. You know, we're engaged, and one day I really hope we do get married, but we really talk about marriage as a big if, not a when. I want us to stay together, and I want this to be strong. And I know he does too. And so it's like scared of like, what is the other option? Like besides us making this work, what is the other option? For me, that's terrifying. So I got your book recommendations, and they're very lovely. And I started one of the books,
Which one?
Your Body's Not an Apology. I turned it on, and literally about 3 minutes into the book, I'm driving this morning, and I was like, I'm not gonna cry. Like, I'm totally not gonna cry.
What was...
I think it was like explaining the importance of like radical self-love you know, like, I love me regardless.
Unconditionally.
Exactly. And I was thinking, and I was like, do I have that? And I think what made me cry was I was just like, I don't think so. And then I brought it back to these sessions, and I was like, if I can radically love me, then I can allow Josh to radically love me. So that was my epiphany this morning.
Wonderful. It's a good one.
Thanks. So.
Where are you listening?
It's nice, yeah. Initially, like, what I wanted to speak about was, like, I just feel like that she wasn't committing to some of the things that she said she would commit to. You know, some of, like, the intimacy or the being close to each other stuff. And hearing that helps me to not excuse it, but to understand that her process is not what I think her process is. Her process is what
But
it is.
there is a
herself.
process. Your fear is that there's no process.
My fear is that it's stagnant water. I think a huge thing is, like, I came in here looking for our sex life to change. She's still not initiating. So although I can recognize these positive moments, it doesn't negate the fact that I'm a human being and that I'm having feelings that are negative.
What's your emotional response?
I think that I don't know, I don't have a word for it, but there's something in there that's like, I don't know if it's the way he's saying it or something that's like I feel like things are happening in our relationship, and you're kind of like, yeah, that's awesome, that's regular.
That's not what I said at all, though. I completely acknowledged how what you expressed here today was important to me and to you. I'm saying that this is still important, and I want to make sure that that is there. So if you don't want me to bring...
Hold on, Josh. So what's your response?
Josh is bringing up my shortcomings, right? And so it's like, I feel like I don't bring that energy to him, right, in that way.
What is the essence of the criticism you hear?
It's just not enough. When he's like, I want to be more physically intimate. I want to be these things. If I'm not every week making progress, is he going to be like, oh, well, this all was for nothing? Like, we failed? What does that mean?
So you're stuck and paralyzed by the weight of Josh's disappointment.
Yeah, I guess.
And I guess the other side of it is that Josh is paralyzed by the weight of your not engaging in the realm of agency.
Yeah, in action.
Yeah.
And what it seems like to me is that the option is, so then, Natasha, it's on you. And so I'm like, if it is on me, those wins have to be, the wins that I would feel important, that are important, have to be just as important to you.
What does that look like? What does it look like for me to come in here today and celebrate for you, right? Because I think I did, but I didn't.
I think what happens is there's a way in which you're coming across as maybe something like, it's great that you're doing the work, but the real important thing is not happening.
No.
There we go.
No.
And that is
I can understand how
demoralizing.
it comes across that way. I can understand that.
Like, I understand the urgency as well. I don't know how to do both. Like,
I think it's my business. I think that Orna said something really important, and that I have to learn to be better at that, because it's important, period. What you went through is important, period. And my feelings don't affect the importance of that. And I think me saying but in kind of impeded upon that, and that was unfair. So I'm sorry. And my feelings are my feelings, and they exist, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm unbelievably happy and that I love you very much.
me too.
And then the work that you're doing is important to me, and it's important to us and our family. And I can't wait to watch you and do more of that, and to be there and support you in all of those moments. Really.
I'm not gonna cry. I love you.
I feel like I felt ego leave me. It hurt.
It was an exorcism.
We had sex today before coming to the session.
wonderful.
And she was open to it, and that made me feel happy. Didn't matter you know, like what the mechanics were of whatever it was. It was just that she was like, all right. You know, and for me, I was like, all right, let's give it a go.
we take our all rights, right?
Yeah.
But that's part of what we've been talking about.
Exactly, yeah.
Kind of expand the idea of like what sexuality is. That it can be lots of things and willingness is plenty.
Yeah. It was so nice to like have sex, and then afterwards we were like, great job. And then like we were talking about like other things. Like normally it's
part of life.
Exactly. I feel like that was like a new chapter, right? It was
for the two of you.
Yeah. Because it was like, oh my God, like this can happen. Check us out, Orna. So I was listening to a podcast that I normally listen to. The actual episode was about grief. And so it wasn't about just mourning people that you've lost to, you know, it was about really also mourning versions of yourself, right? And I think the part that really struck a chord with me was like, I've been pushing away the act of grieving my previous self. Like,
tell me.
When I was like growing up, like my family knew I was going to be the one that was going to go to school. Like they knew they were like, Natasha's going to become something awesome. She's going to be a lawyer or something. I didn't want to be a lawyer, but they just had big dreams for me. Right? And then, you know, I had my daughter and my plans changed. And so I never really like sat with the fact that like I had this plan for my life and it went somewhere else. And like, while that's a blessing, I felt like mourning that previous life was somehow disrespecting my current reality. Right?
Like you couldn't allow yourself to go there.
Yeah. I feel like I'm stopping myself from experiencing joy in this relationship, in my life, because I feel like I'm not that girl.
You've failed yourself in some way.
Some way, yeah. I
So
feel
you're
like,
waiting.
yeah, to experience joy, to find
You're
that
waiting for
fullness.
her.
Yeah, I'm waiting to be her. I'm waiting for her to show up. And so I was like really sitting with how it would relate to like Josh, because it's not just sex or intimacy. It's really just like, I need to feel like I deserve those things. That's where I need to be very intentional. It's like, how can I accept myself today? How can I love on myself a little bit more today?
I like that.
Yeah.
You love yourself better, I become better, we become better.
We love each other
There
better.
we go,
But
yes.
like love in like the raised eyebrow way too, like the wink way too.
Oh, okay, I'm down with that.
See? Look at that.
I'm in. Cool.
How's that landing with you?
It's unbelievable that she's doing that work. That's like really difficult work to do. It also makes me sad because that's a lot to carry around. To walk around with the burden of what you should be means that you're constantly walking around with the burden that you're not enough. You know? Anybody else you come in
Maybe
contact
something
with?
about then when the two of you get into this way that you feel disappointed, it sits right on that feeling.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I've been thinking a lot about what our relationship looks like to our children, and being a good model for a healthy relationship to them. I just look at my son. I think about him. Every day I look at him and I think, like, I want to make sure you're fucking good. It's the best as I can. But I also think, like, I guess I do think of my parents, like, no, I just want to be better. I want our children to be the representation of the meticulous effort we put into our relationship. And that at some point in the future, they say our parents really gave a fuck about each other. You know, and they love each other and they worked towards this, and this was work that they did.